Good morning. It's really good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this. But for those of us sitting here in Uptown, it's evening. It's not your typical YouTube broadcast where we do like a lecture style. This is more of a class. So it's interactive. If you have questions, you can ask. Those that are here in person can ask. Those that are watching, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook, feel free to put in your questions or comments, and I'll try to address them. Lessons on Sefira. We live in an interesting time, and particularly we're in a season now between two very important holidays. You see, during the times of the temple, there were three holidays called the Shalosh Regolim. And Regolim means times, but it also means feet. Because on these three holidays, we would walk, go, take a wagon, however you get there, go to Jerusalem, to the temple. And the process of going there is to be seen by God. Obviously, God sees you everywhere, but you see godliness, you see a temple, you see offerings, you see prophets, you experience a certain level of holiness, spirituality, godliness, more than you feel at home. And 3 times a year we would go, we would celebrate the holiday there, and then we had enough inspiration, enough of an awakening, enough of motivation to help us for the coming months till the next holiday. You go into the world, you deal with life. There's ups and ups, and there's better days than others. And you need to stay focused. You have to stay positive. You have to stay confident. A Jew has trust in Hashem. He knows, or she knows, that we're not limited by nature, and God performs miracles, and God runs our lives in ways that are not bound to the regular order of nature. We got to work with nature, but the trust, the confidence, the optimism has to always be that it's there, Hashem is going to help us. And how do you get this motivation? So what was very helpful during the times of the temple was to go to the temple. You watch offerings being put on the altar, and you see a fire come down from heaven, which is a miracle, and consume the animal. It's a real miracle. You see, there's miracles. Or you see the prophet. The whole ambiance that went on there gave us a spiritual boost, holy energy, a godly excitement for the coming few months that are there, that are following. So we find ourselves now between two of these holidays, the holiday of Pesach and the holiday of Shavuos. Pesach, of course, welcome. Now, between these two holidays, welcome. Take some tea, coffee, water. When we got the Torah, so it wasn't an easy process. You can't just show up and say, God, give me the Torah. You could, but there's more appropriate ways to receive the Torah, especially if you're coming from a place like Egypt. When the Jewish people lived in Egypt for many, many decades, it had an impact on us. It had an effect. It changed something within us. Unfortunately, many Jews worshipped idols, first of all. In addition, there were Jews who, an environment affects you in some way. Maybe we stayed moral, we stayed true, we stayed committed, but at the same time, being a slave for so many years and generations causes a certain level of impurity within us. So much so that the Torah tells us that if Hashem wouldn't have taken us out, it may have actually been too late, because there are 50 chambers or levels, gates of impurity. And in Egypt, the Jewish people, says the Kabbalah, we sunk one level, another level, all the way to level 49. It's a very impure place spiritually to be a state of being. And Hashem took us out the last second before we hit that 50th mark, because It's never too late, but hitting that 50th mark makes it very hard for a Jew to come out of that impurity. It's just very, very difficult. Now, to share an idea, imagine what happens to the person who grew up, was born in jail, without television or newspapers. And then he grows up, and even his parents grew up in jail. Even his grandparents. Whatever he knows about the free world is just, fairy tales. And then he goes out one day. It's very hard to adjust. It's very hard to be a free person overnight. When you grew up in that environment, when your parents grew up in that environment, when your grandparents grew up in that environment. So it wasn't an easy thing to do. So here the Jewish people come out of Egypt on Passover. They experience tremendous miracles and great spiritual revelations, but it takes time to become a free person, to start thinking like a free man, to really stop living like a slave. And hey, take some cookies, take some water. And as this is happening, we have to get ready to receive the Torah. Now, receiving the Torah is also a very big deal. Okay, receiving the Torah is a connection to God, where God spoke to us face to face. It was like, we didn't see him, but it was a very straight connection. And the revelation of godliness is very strong. You need to prepare for that. You have to get ready for that. And there are 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuos. And these 7 weeks represent the 7 middos, the 7 characteristics that each and every one of us have. Every person has 7 characteristics. You have an element in your soul that's kind. You have an element that is strict or a disciplinarian, okay, or tough. You have a side of you that's a blend of kindness and discipline at the same time. You have part of you which needs to win. You have to see it to the finish line. Some people have it much stronger. People that want to be the president of the United States, or any president for that matter, their need for victory is very strong. Some people have the need for victory in an argument with someone else, in an interaction, maybe with themselves. They have to reach their goal. They have to achieve it. We all have it on some level. Sometimes it's a little bit more concealed, sometimes a little more revealed, but it's always there. And so on. You have 7 of these character traits. Each one of these characteristics have within them 7. So within kindness, you have severity of kindness. You have kindness of kindness, and so on. Which means it's nuances of your attitude, of your behavior, of your thinking process, your feelings. And during the 7 weeks from Pesach till Shavuos, the first time, the Jews were trying to lift themselves up from the 49 gates of impurity. 7 weeks has how many days? 49. To take us from impurity to the highest of holy levels. You don't just jump there. You have to work on yourself. You have to develop. You have to go step by step by step. And the 50th day is Shavuos. Now Hashem gave a commandment. He said, I want from the day after Shabbos, which means the day after Passover, second day of Passover, you should count. And what happened was they brought the Omer offering on the second day of Pesach, which was a special offering made with the barley of the harvest, thank you. And they would take that and bring it. What's called the Omer offering. Now, here you have a big dispute, a fight, an argument, point of contention You have another word for fight? Between traditional Judaism, which were the rabbis, the high court, the Sanhedrin, and so on.
Conflict.
Tradition, conflict, yeah. And a group that's called Tzedokim, or Karaots. Tzedokim, Karaim.
Mhm.
These are people who said, we only follow the written Torah. If it says it in the 5 books, if it says it in the scroll, we follow. If it doesn't, don't do it. Okay. Now, Judaism is full of tradition because Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, he went on top of the mountain and God gave him a lot of information. For example, put on tefillin, right? What color is the tefillin? Anyone know?
Black.
Black. Why is it black? It doesn't say in the Torah black tefillin. But when Moshe came down from the mountain, he said, God told me that when he said tefillin, he wants it to be black, square. Okay? You're not going to find it in the Chumash. It would be a very big Chumash. Okay? So we have tradition from Moshe. We have explanations of what certain things mean. It's not changing the meaning. It's expounding, explaining, telling us what it's really about. So when you have a group of people that come and say, we don't follow this. I'll give you another example. When it talks about forbidden relationships, the term that's used in Torah is, he shall not lie with her. That's it. These tzaddikim say, if you lie, it's a problem. But if you stand, it's not a problem, etc. In other words, technically speaking, you can marry that person, just don't lie down. Whatever it may be. The point is that these Karaites, tzaddikim, depending on the era and the group, they were very strong against all oral Torah, all oral tradition. Now, when we say you have to count, it said, Mimocharas HaShabbos, from the day after Shabbos. Now, normally Shabbos means Shabbos, the 7th day of the week. But Shabbos could also mean holidays, like Yom Kippur is called Shabbos Shabbosai. Our sages said, when it says start counting the day after, it means the day after Pesach, second day of Pesach. Not the first Sunday after Pesach. So now you have 49 days till Shavuos. Traditional Judaism is going to have Shavuos on the 5th and 6th of Sivan. The Tzaddikim, the Karaites, they're going to have Shavuos a different day because they're not going to count the next day. Well, this year it was a Sunday, the second day. But in other years, they would wait till the next Shabbos, could be 3-4 days, and then they would start counting. Right? So 49 days later, Shavuos is different. And some of these Karaites, Tzaddikim, they made it into Jewish leadership. They were Kohanim, sometimes even a high priest. And there was a lot of arguments about not just this law in general, but this law was a big one. There was a big debate about it. So much so that when they did the whole process of what's the word I'm looking for? Of harvesting and bringing in the whole Omer offering, they made big announcements. We're doing the Omer now. What day is it today? What are we taking? And so on. To express that we're not making a mistake and no one should misinterpret this. We're doing this because this is Torah's explanation of what it means. You know the joke about the guy went to get a haircut at the barber, and he's sitting in the seat, and he sees the barber is waving at some kid in the window. He's like, watch, this is the dumbest kid you've ever seen. So the kid comes in, and I see that this joke is known. Very good. So go. So okay. Say the punchline.
So the customer asks, why is he the dumbest kid? Just watch. kid comes in, and the barber says, "All right, you can have either this dollar or you got this 50 cents." So the kid picks up the 50 cents and then goes and leaves. The barber's like, "See, it's stupid. So if you want to take the dollar, it's worth more." So eventually the customer gets his haircut done. He goes on with his day, but he sees the kid at the TV store. He's like, he stops and asks, "Why did you take the 50 cents?" Like, well, if I took a dollar, the game would be over.
Very good. Yep. So Torah is very accurate and specific about the words that it uses. Right? Why couldn't Torah just say the day after Pesach? Why do you have to say the day after Shabbos? And now there's room for misinterpretation, and maybe it means something else. Why? Just say what you mean what you say, and you'll avoid so much tension and conflict and arguments and fighting and just misunderstanding among these groups. I get it. You can't do it for the whole Torah. It'll take forever. It'll be huge. But one word. Just say the day after Pesach instead of saying the day after Shabbos. Or say the day of the month, like many other holidays. Say the 16th of the month. And you're done. Why do you do that? So the Rabbi explains, and Chassidus talks about this a lot, that nature, cycle, order, it works in numbers of 7. We have 7 weeks, 7 days to the week, right? 7 characteristics, 7 colors to the rainbow. We went through this already. The point is that things work in a cycle of 7. It represents a cycle. When you go to 8, that means you rise above the normal. You rise above what is basic, process, order. Now, Hashem is telling the Jewish people a message. I want you to rise above the normal. Go the day after Shabbos. As holy as Shabbos is the 7th day, right? And therefore, it represents a cycle. It's a holy cycle, but it's a cycle. The moment you say after Shabbos, the tomorrow of Shabbos, probably would say the marrow of Shabbos, what you mean is a level beyond the Shabbos, something that's greater, something that's more. And that is something which is more than Shabbos, is a message that Hashem is telling us. Because many people ask themselves, can I change who I am? I was born a certain way. Can I change it? Or the famous argument, nature versus nurture. Right? Is life all about nature? You are who you are? Or is it nurture? You could be raised a certain way, you could be modified, you could be trained, and so on. Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz was a great tzaddik and a great Jewish scholar. And he once was approached by the local governor. And the governor said, listen, I want to know, do you think it's possible to change nature? In other words, a person. This is who you are. Could you modify who you are? Someone says I'm not a kind person. Sorry, you can't blame me. That's just who I am. Or I don't have patience. I just don't. This is my makeup. I can't change myself. Do you believe that, or you think you could change it? Now, he said, nature can't be changed. You could develop habits, but nature can't be changed. Now, there was a priest who the governor asked the same question. He said, no, I could train anything. I could train a cat. I'll prove it. I need a month. So the governor tells the Jew, Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz, that meet me in a month. We're going to meet here in this place, and we're going to do a showdown. We're going to see. And he said, no problem. He forgot all about it. A month later, they knock on the door. Rabbi, we're going for the meeting with the governor. Oh, that's right. I got to prove that you can't change nature. So he's about to leave. He grabs his snuff box. In the olden days, I don't know, maybe today people still do it, but classy, if you were aristocratic, had a little class, you had a snuff box, usually a nice box, and every once in a while I take a little tobacco and snuff it. So he grabbed it with him before he left. And he comes in, and sure enough, this priest is there with a cat. And he says, I will prove to you that you could train anything. See this cat? I trained it. It's wearing a bow tie with a uniform. It's standing on two legs. And watch, it's going to serve everyone here wine. And in one paw has a tray with some glasses. The other one is wine. And it's incredible. It's walking around. And Rabbi was thinking to himself, how do I disprove this? He opens up his snuff box. As he's thinking, take a little tobacco, and out jumps a tiny little mouse. The mouse jumps, it hits the floor, and all of a sudden, all the cups, the wine, the cat forgot about the uniforms and tests and training, 30 days of training. He said, I rest my case. You can't train. You can't change nature. This is who the cat is. It's always going to go for the mouse, and that's it. So people think the same thing. I can't change who I am. Comes the Torah and says it's not true. Mimocharas HaShabbos means you are getting a special command, which means a special power, to go to the marrow of Shabbos. You could go beyond nature. You, the Jewish nation, God says, has the ability. We're not cats. We have the ability to change. We're not just the ability, we have the responsibility, the obligation. That's what we're here for. Life is about development, growing, becoming better. Of course, helping others, impacting the world, making a change. But we do that through changing ourselves, becoming better people, growing. And it's a necessary component to realize that it is possible. And not to say that's how I am. I'm just a disorganized person. I can't become organized. You could. Cats can't, refrain from mice. They could, but it'll won't last. A human, right? The Jewish people have this gift the day after Shabbos. Shabbos means cycle. You could go beyond the cycle. That's what tshuva is about. Tshuva means you could change the past. I messed up, I could change. I go beyond the order, beyond the rules after the fact. And this is how you change things. There was an Israeli boy, he wasn't really a boy, he was a teenager, who came to study in Brooklyn, in the Rabbi's shul, 770. But he didn't like to study. He liked to help out. So whenever there was a project, something had to be taken care of, he was the one. He was never sitting with a book. But it bothered him because, you're in yeshiva, you have to learn. And this young man is always doing everything but. So before his birthday, he had a chance to have a private audience with the Rebbe. Private meeting, just him and the Rebbe. And he goes in, and he tells the Rebbe, he wrote it down, that it really bothers him. He wants to learn, but he can't. He's not studious. He can't bring himself to do it. So the Rebbe told him, why don't you start with 5 minutes, but only 5 minutes, not more. 5 minutes, not less. He said, okay, every day 5 minutes. So the Rebbe told him, so he sat down, and for 5 minutes, he opened the book, and he started to learn. And then it was already 6 minutes, he closed it. The next day, he was waiting for the 5 minutes. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. No more, no less. And after a while, he really enjoyed it. He started to do a little more and a little more and a little more. You train yourself step by step to get better. That's what Sefiras is. We train ourselves day after day after day, 7 weeks, 49 days, to become ready to receive the Torah. To get that opportunity, that benefit, that ability. Any questions before we move on? Any questions from the online audience? You can tell us where you are or where you're watching from or not. No? Okay, I'm going to go to the next topic. So, we're good? Okay. There's a mitzvah that says, love your fellow like yourself. Sounds fair? Sounds easy? Reasonable? No one's saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, here's the deal. Somebody wrote a letter to the Rebbe with a question. He said, every nation likes one another. It's reasonable. The Frenchman like the Frenchman. I think he said the Englishman like the Englishman. That's just the way it works, you know. Ukrainians like Russians, Russians like Russians. It's just, right? So Torah says, Jews like one another, love one another. It's not like a novel idea. There's a certain solidarity that you feel to the people from your own shtetl, from your own country, from your own culture. It's just the way it works. It's not like some kind of big mitzvah. Okay, help them out. What's so special about it? How is it different? And the Rebbe answered him that it is different. It's different in the sense that there's one word, kam meicha, like yourself. Love your fellow like yourself. How do you like yourself? You like yourself unconditionally. A person doesn't love himself or herself because of some kind of great quality that I have intellectually. I'm smart, I'm brilliant, or novel. Or emotions, I have some kind of kindness to me, or some kind of ability to win or to endure. That's not why you love yourself. You love yourself because you just love yourself. It's unconditional. And this is a level that Torah says, I want you to love one another like yourself, means unconditionally, not because they deserve it, simply because you gotta love them, who they are. And that's unique. That's not something that every nation does. They love one another, they want to help each other out, they're nice, but it's not unconditional. Unconditional is a very strong level. And it's something which we have to practice and work towards. Unconditional type of love. A level that's real. It's not dependent on anything. In relationships also, you know, a person has to have a level where they love unconditionally. It can't be this tit for tat, scorekeeping situation. Which leads to the following question. How is it possible? How could you really tell me that I should love someone else like myself? Let's get real. Myself is one thing, unconditionally. Other people, it's... So the Rebbe points to the Tanya, chapter 32. And in chapter 32, he talks there about the idea of Ahavas Yisrael, loving a fellow like yourself. And chapter 32 in Hebrew means Lev, because every letter has a number. So 32 is spelled out Lev, which means heart. It's the heart of the whole Tanya, is the love that you have to have for one another, which is what Chabad is about, care for another, love for one another, and so on. But this idea of how it's done is a person needs to go to the source. He has to look at the essence. And the essence, there's no difference between one Jew and another. In the essence, we're all part of one entity. It's like if you hurt yourself by mistake with your right hand, are you going to start hitting the left hand? With the left hand hitting the right hand? Why did you hurt me? It's ludicrous. Right? Why? Because it's you. Part of you. It's like two brothers. You're part of the same thing. It's one body. When you realize that we're one, then you don't hate. You love unconditionally. The Mishnah says a person should acquire for himself a friend. Okay. So get a rabbi, appoint a rabbi for yourself, and acquire a friend. Now, acquire a friend in Hebrew, it says kinei. Kinei means to buy. Buy a friend. Now, it's a very difficult idea. What does this mean, buy a friend? Pay him off? Pay for love? What does this mean? It's a very, it sounds not just superficial, it sounds wrong, it sounds conniving, it sounds flattering. What is this? You're going to buy friendship? And that's a Mishnah's directive to a person. We have a beautiful custom that the whole summer we study ethics of our fathers, Pirkei Avot. There's 6 chapters, and traditionally it's done from Pesach till Shavuos, and Chabad is done all the way, anyone that wants, all the way to Rosh Hashanah. In the summer months, we learn every week another one of these chapters. Now, this chapter of this Mishnah is in Pirkei Avot. So it says, acquire for yourself a friend. What does it mean? Buy a friend. Buy them gifts. How do you do it? So there's a beautiful answer that Rabbi gives. He explains. We need to understand. You're not buying love. You're not buying a friend. You bring a bottle of wine, you're my friend. Maybe you're more expensive, I'll pay a little more. What does this mean? Buy a friend means you have to invest. You have to be willing to pay for it. You have to be willing to give something for friendship. It's not here's a meal, be my friend. I'll do you a favor, be my friend. In order to have a proper friend, which is extremely important, you need to invest. You have to be there for the other person. You have to care. You have to really connect, even when you're not in the mood. You have to see it as something that's worth paying for, not dishing out cash and say, hey, please be my friend. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about be willing to pay with your time, with your care, with your resources for the other friend. It's inconvenient at times. It's not necessarily fun. It may not be beneficial for you. Doesn't matter. What we're trying to do here now is acquire the friend, meaning invest, build. You have to work on it. That's why these lifetime friendships are so meaningful, because they went through something together. They were there for each other. They developed a bond. They cared. They listened. They shared. They maybe forgave. Maybe they had some kind of bump in the road, right? But the idea is that we need to recognize certain things are worth paying for. Certain things are not automatic. Love your fellow like yourself, of course, unconditionally. Love them. Friendship is something which you work towards. You invest in it. If he's your friend or if she's your friend, you think of ways how you could be there for them, how you could help them. It's not going to be about what do I get in return for it or how do I benefit from it. It's I'm acquiring it. What can I give to get this? Have this friendship. Next Sunday, less than a week, is a day called Pesach Sheni, the second Passover. And the way that we commemorate this is we eat matzah on that day. You could have bread also. And you don't have to clean your house from chametz and sell the chametz and all that kind of stuff. And it's a regular day, like you could drive and work and so on, but we eat matzah. What's the significance behind the second Passover? So the second Passover is when the Jewish people were bringing the offering, Pesach offering, the law is that if somebody is tamei, if they're ritually impure, they cannot participate in this offering. So you had a group of people who were impure. different opinions why they were involved in carrying the bones of the tribes out of Egypt to bury them. But be it as it may, they were impure. So they couldn't bring the offering. So they came to Moshe and they said, why should we miss out? We wanted to have an opportunity to bring the offering. We are unfortunately impure, so now we can't bring it. Now, impurity, you have to wait 7 days. And after 7 days, in certain cases, you go to the mikvah, always mikvah, but in certain cases, 7 full days. But there's not enough time because the Pesach offering has to be brought on the eve of Pesach. If it's in the middle of the 7 days, they can't bring it. So we're missing out on the Pesach offering. So Moshe said, I got to ask Hashem. God said, tell them that in 30 days, 1 month, from the eve of Pesach, which is the 14th of Iyar, this coming Sunday, is the second Pesach. And anyone that didn't have a chance could make up for it. Now, we commemorate it. We all have matzah, even if we had an opportunity already. But we have matzah. And we celebrate this concept. But Hashem told Moshe, anyone that was impure or was traveling, they couldn't make it back on time, or it was willingly. A person said, I'm not in the mood of Pesach, which is a problem. And then they changed their mind and they said, if only I could participate in this Pesach offering, you have a chance. Next month, you could do it. This year, it's coming up this Sunday. What's the idea? The Rebbe teaches us in the previous Rebbe that it's never too late. I missed the first Passover. Train left. It's over. It's not over. But it wasn't a mistake. I knowingly didn't care. I actually went traveling. I went on a trip. Doesn't matter. Hashem says, I'm giving you a second chance. It's never, ever too late. You could always make up for what you missed. So it's not just about Pesach. It's about giving us this ability that we could change, become better, make up for the past, and never say, listen, I'm this and this age now. It's not possible anymore. It's not true. You always have a second chance. And this is an idea that Rebbe spoke about so much, that it's never too late, it's never too late, it's never too late. People say, if I did it when I was younger, or, if I wouldn't have gone through so much or whatever, then, well. But it's not true. Torah says it's never too late. Always have a second chance. You can make up for it. And that's the idea of the second Pesach. You know how many people that are household names of wealth and success and inventors and great accomplished leaders and so on have failed? All of them. Well, you know how many of them started later in life? Businesses or other things that those were the ones that were successful. It's never too late. And we know this from Torah, and we know this from the teachers of Hasidus, that as we try to improve for Sefiras, as we started with, and a person says, I tried so many times to improve myself. It's not me. No, it's never too late. Try again. It works. Let's time for arguments, questions.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep. Sefiras. Yeah, next is Netzach. So I don't know. We're in Netzach. We're in Netzach. Yeah. Sefiras. Yes. We're in Netzach.